defense. Right there, what is that?
Michael Jordan once called Isiah Thomas the second greatest point guard ever, then made sure he was left off the Dream Team. And Shaq, he once rapped about how Kobe should taste his.
Tell me how my ass tastes.
In this video, we're breaking down NBA players who truly can't stand each other. Let's begin with Michael Jordan versus Isiah Thomas. The seeds of this animosity were planted in 1985 during what would become known as the infamous freeze-out of Michael Jordan's first All-Star game. But instead of being welcomed into the fraternity of basketball's elite with open arms, Jordan found himself the target of what he believed was a carefully orchestrated conspiracy designed to humiliate him on basketball's biggest stage. Jordan later claimed that Isiah Thomas and other veterans conspired to limit his touches during the game, essentially freezing him out due to jealousy over his hype and Nike deal. The statistics from that All-Star game tell a humiliating story. Jordan, who had been averaging over 28 points per game as a rookie, numbers that were simply unheard of for a first-year player, managed only 7 points in 22 minutes of play. The breaking point in their relationship came in 1991, when Jordan's Bulls finally overcame the Pistons in the Eastern Conference Finals, sweeping them 4-0 in a series that felt like years of frustration and humiliation finally finding their release. But as the final seconds ticked away in Game 4, Thomas and most of the Pistons committed what Jordan would consider the ultimate act of disrespect. They walked off the court without shaking hands with the Bulls. The consequences of this feud extended far beyond hurt feelings and wounded egos, reaching into the highest levels of international basketball. When it came time to select the 1992 Dream Team for the Olympics, what would become the most talented basketball team ever assembled, Jordan allegedly issued an ultimatum to USA basketball officials.
I respect Isiah Thomas's talent. To me, the best point guard of all time is Magic Johnson, and right behind him is Isiah Thomas. No matter how much I hate him, I respect his game. Now, it was insinuated that I was asking about him, but I never threw his name in there. Based on the environment and the camaraderie that happened on that team, it was best harmony. Would Isiah made a different feeling on that team? Yes. You want to attribute it to me? Go ahead, be my guest. But it wasn't me.
As Charles Barkley would later reveal with characteristic bluntness, Isiah Thomas was a better player than John Stockton. Michael didn't want him on the team, plain and simple. But perhaps the most shocking revelation came from Thomas's response to the documentary. He claimed that he had no idea Jordan harbored such deep resentment toward him until he watched the series. As of 2025, with both men now in their 60s and facing the inevitable march of time, the feud shows absolutely no signs of resolution. Magic Johnson, who maintained relationships with both players during their careers and understands the psychology of elite competition better than almost anyone, has publicly pleaded for reconciliation, noting that life is simply too short for such lasting and destructive hatred. If Jordan and Isiah's beef was cold and calculated, the next one was fiery and explosive, because when egos clash under Hollywood lights, it gets personal fast. Shaquille O'Neal versus Kobe Bryant. The very idea of these two legendary figures sharing the same basketball court was both thrilling and terrifying in equal measure. Shaq arrived in Los Angeles in the summer of 1996 as the established superstar, a 7'1", 300-pound force of nature whose combination of size, athleticism, and skill had never been seen before in the history of basketball. That same year, the Lakers had also just completed one of the most audacious moves in NBA history, acquiring an 18-year-old high school phenomenon named Kobe Bryant through a draft day trade that would forever alter the landscape of professional basketball. For the first few years of their partnership, the combination worked despite the underlying tension that simmered just beneath the surface. The Lakers captured 3 consecutive championships from 2000 to 2002, with Shaq absolutely dominating opposing centers in the paint, while Kobe provided explosive highlight reel scoring from the perimeter. To outside observers, this seemed like the perfect partnership. However, Shaq was known throughout the league for his laid-back approach to the regular season, often showing up to training camp overweight and out of shape. Kobe, on the other hand, was obsessed with perfection in a way that bordered on the pathological. The first major explosion occurred during a 1998-99 practice scrimmage when O'Neal and Bryant got into an actual physical altercation, with O'Neal slapping Bryant after a heated verbal exchange. The situation reached its absolute nadir during Kobe's highly publicized legal troubles, when it was revealed that during police questioning related to his case, Bryant had told investigators that Shaquille O'Neal had paid women to stay quiet about similar situations in his own life. In a nationally televised ESPN interview, calling O'Neal fat and out of shape while criticizing his leadership abilities and work ethic. In 2006, after capturing a championship with Miami, Shaq couldn't resist taking another devastating shot at his former teammate, freestyling at a nightclub.
Now that's the difference between first and last play. Kobe, tell me how my ass tastes. Okay, Kobe, tell me how my ass tastes. Okay, everybody, Kobe, tell me how my ass tastes.
But perhaps the most telling moment in their entire relationship came in 2010 when Kobe won his 5th championship. Bryant, displaying the kind of pettiness that had characterized their relationship for years, couldn't help but reference this achievement publicly, saying, "Just one more than Shaq, I can take that to the bank," proving that even in his moment of greatest triumph, the shadow of their rivalry still loomed large. From Hollywood to heartbreak, this next feud tore apart a brotherhood and left a city stunned when loyalty gave way to legacy. Kevin Durant versus Russell Westbrook. The foundation of their partnership began to crack in 2016, during what should have been their greatest triumph. The Thunder had built a commanding 3-1 lead over the defending champion Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference Finals, putting them just one victory away from returning to the NBA Finals. The true breaking point came on July 4th, 2016, when Durant made the most controversial decision of his career. In a Players Tribune article that sent shockwaves throughout the basketball world, Durant announced that he was leaving Oklahoma City as a free agent to join the Golden State Warriors, the very team that had eliminated the Thunder from the playoffs just 2 months earlier. Reports emerged that Westbrook felt completely blindsided by Durant's departure, claiming that their last communication had been a simple text message with no indication of what was to come. The first post-breakup meeting between Durant and Westbrook came on November 3rd, 2016, when the Warriors visited Oklahoma City for what would become one of the most emotionally charged regular season games in NBA history. The Thunder fans' reception for Durant was predictably hostile, with boos and cupcake chants filling the arena every time he touched the basketball. But it was Westbrook's behavior that truly captured the attention of basketball observers everywhere. Throughout the game, Westbrook played with an intensity and fury that seemed to border on the supernatural, staring down Durant after every significant play and celebrating with the kind of emotion that made it clear this was far more than just another basketball game. When Westbrook threw down a thunderous dunk in the fourth quarter, he turned directly toward Durant and glared with such intensity that it felt like the entire arena might spontaneously combust from the heat of his anger. The tension between Durant and Westbrook reached its absolute peak during their playoff meetings, where the personal animosity was impossible to ignore. During one particularly heated exchange, Westbrook was caught on camera yelling, "I'm coming," in Durant's direction, a promise that sounded more like a threat than typical basketball trash talk. Durant was caught using burner accounts on Twitter to defend his decision to leave Oklahoma City while simultaneously criticizing Westbrook and the Thunder organization. By 2023, both Durant and Westbrook had publicly stated that they harbored no ill will toward each other, with Durant even defending Westbrook against criticism during his difficult stint with the Los Angeles Lakers. In recent interviews, Durant has acknowledged that their relationship probably won't ever be the same again, but he's also expressed respect for how Westbrook handled the aftermath of his departure. Meanwhile, Westbrook has maintained that there was never any real beef between them, claiming that the media manufactured drama where none truly existed. But before burner accounts and trade demands, there was a rivalry so intense it saved the NBA itself. And it all started with a single college game: Larry Bird versus Magic Johnson. The foundation of this legendary rivalry was laid not in the gleaming arenas of the NBA, but on college basketball's most prestigious stage, during what would become one of the most watched and culturally significant sporting events in American history. March 26, 1979, when Magic Johnson's Michigan State Spartans defeated Larry Bird's Indiana State Sycamores 75-64 in the NCAA championship game, the contest drew a record television rating of 35.1 and attracted over 40 million viewers, numbers that seem almost impossible by today's fragmented media standards. Bird later admitted, with the kind of brutal honesty that characterized his entire approach to life, that the devastating loss haunted him in ways that few defeats ever had. The humiliation of falling short on basketball's biggest stage planted a seed of resentment and motivation that would grow into an all-consuming desire for revenge that would define the next decade of his professional career. When both players made the transition to professional basketball, Bird, in 1979 after returning to Indiana State to complete his senior season, and Johnson directly from college after his championship victory, their first professional encounter was electric with anticipation and tension. The December 28, 1979 meeting at the Forum in Los Angeles immediately lived up to all the hype and expectation, featuring playoff-like intensity despite being just a regular season game. The contest was so compelling that it marked the Lakers' first sellout crowd in over a year and included a memorable moment when Bird knocked Johnson down during a drive to the basket, leading to heated stares and heated words between the future Hall of Famers. Bird's reflection on their early professional relationship reveals the depth of competitive animosity that existed between them. "I knew that whatever team he played for and whatever team I played for were going to be battling for whatever's there."
You crazy. I said, "You're crazy. I'm not shooting a commercial with Larry."
This wasn't professional rivalry tempered by mutual respect and admiration. This was deeply personal animosity that affected every aspect of how these two legends approached basketball and each other. Bird viewed Johnson as nothing less than the enemy and made a conscious decision to have no interest whatsoever in personal interactions off the court, while Johnson reciprocated those feelings, describing their dynamic by saying they were mirrors of each other, but were fueled entirely by mutual hatred. They deliberately avoided handshakes before and after games, rarely spoke to each other even when circumstances required interaction, and seemed to genuinely dislike everything about each other's approach to basketball, media relations, and public persona. This level of personal animosity between two players of their caliber was virtually unprecedented in professional sports. The trash talking between these two legends was absolutely legendary in both its creativity and its personal nature. Bird's psychological warfare was particularly effective, as demonstrated during one game when he drained a three-pointer over Johnson and immediately taunted him, "You did all that running for nothing," a comment designed to get under Johnson's skin and demonstrate Bird's mental superiority. Johnson, for his part, later admitted with characteristic honesty, "Anytime I can beat Larry Bird, I'm good," a statement that revealed just how personal and important their individual matchups had become for both players. When Bird announced his own retirement in 1993, Johnson was there to offer one of the most heartfelt tributes in sports history. "There will never, ever, ever be another Larry Bird," while Bird graciously reciprocated by calling Johnson the greatest player he had ever witnessed. That was old school hatred. Now let's talk about new school shade, the kind that starts on Twitter, flares up at All-Star Weekend, and explodes courtside. Giannis Antetokounmpo versus James Harden. The tension between these two superstars first gained significant traction in June 2019, when Antetokounmpo edged Harden for the MVP award, claiming 77% of first-place votes compared to Harden's 23%, despite Harden's league-leading 36.1 points per game. The Houston Rockets Twitter account posted and subsequently deleted tweets disagreeing with the result, calling it disrespectful during Antetokounmpo's acceptance speech and listing Harden's impressive statistical achievements. This marked the official beginning of their public feud, with Harden finishing as MVP runner-up for the third time in 5 years, a pattern of near misses that clearly frustrated both him and his supporters. The underlying narrative became clear. Harden felt that his offensive wizardry and statistical dominance were being unfairly overlooked in favor of Antetokounmpo's team success and defensive impact. In August 2019, Harden escalated the conflict by criticizing what he perceived as MVP narrative bias on Houston radio station 97.9 The Box, implying that media members had created a predetermined storyline favoring Antetokounmpo. He emphasized his control over his own performance while hinting at frustration with external factors influencing award voting. Harden doubled down on his criticism in a September 2019 GQ interview, questioning how the focus could be on Antetokounmpo, despite his own legendary statistical accomplishments. A 32-game 30-point streak, 8 50-point games, 2 60-point games, and all the talk was about Giannis? There's no way. The rivalry reached its absolute peak during the February 2020 All-Star Weekend, which provided multiple opportunities for the tension to boil over in very public settings. As an All-Star captain, Antetokounmpo delivered what many interpreted as a calculated insult when he selected Kemba Walker over Harden in the All-Star draft, joking, "I want somebody that's going to pass the ball," despite Harden averaging significantly more assists than Walker. During the All-Star game itself, Antetokounmpo elbowed Harden during a loose ball scramble, and in his post-game comments, he made it clear that Harden's defense had been specifically targeted. "We were just trying to find whoever James Harden was guarding. That's who we thought we'd have the opportunity to score on." Harden's response came in a late February 2020 ESPN interview with Rachel Nichols, where he delivered what would become one of the most quoted and controversial statements in their entire feud.
"I wish I could just run and with 7 feet and run and just dunk. Like, that takes no skill at all. I gotta actually learn how to play basketball, how to have skill, you know? I take that any day."
Antetokounmpo initially tried to take the high road, telling ESPN before a game against the Thunder, "There's not back and forth. I'm not that type of guy. I've never tried to take stabs at somebody. If that's what Harden believes, that's what he believes." However, his diplomatic approach didn't last long. The apex of their rivalry came during the June-July 2021 Eastern Conference semifinals, when Antetokounmpo's Bucks defeated Harden's Brooklyn Nets in a thrilling 7-game series. Harden, hampered by a hamstring injury, averaged only 20.3 points per game on poor shooting, 35.8% from the field, while the Bucks went on to win the NBA championship that year. During the series, Harden was caught on camera reacting to Antetokounmpo's lengthy free throw routine by counting aloud mockingly. But what if the feud isn't between two players, but one man versus the entire NBA? Meet the chaos agent who's made enemies out of just about everyone. Draymond Green versus multiple players. Draymond Green's feuds are legendary in their scope and intensity, with his trash-talking style making him a magnet for drama throughout his career. What sets Green apart from other NBA antagonists is his remarkable ability to get under opponents' skin while simultaneously providing elite-level basketball production for his own team. He's not simply a provocateur. He's a provocateur who has been a crucial component of multiple championship teams. Perhaps the most shocking and personal of Green's conflicts occurred in 2022 when he punched his own teammate Jordan Poole during a practice, an incident that was caught on video and led to Poole eventually being traded. The footage of the punch sent shockwaves throughout the basketball world, revealing that Green's intensity and willingness to escalate confrontations extended even to his own teammates. In 2023, Green's propensity for physical altercations continued when he was involved in an incident where he choked Minnesota Timberwolves center Rudy Gobert during a game. The image of Green with his arm around Gobert's throat became one of the most widely circulated and discussed moments of the entire NBA season, resulting in a suspension and further cementing Green's reputation as someone willing to cross any line in pursuit of competitive advantage. Green also has an ongoing public feud with NBA analyst Charles Barkley, stemming from Barkley's criticism of Green's on-court behavior and playing style. Throughout his career, Green's confrontational approach has resulted in numerous suspensions and fines from the NBA, but it has also been credited as a key factor in the Warriors' championship success. His ability to disrupt opponents' mental states, draw technical fouls, and create chaos that benefits his own team has been studied and copied by basketball analysts around the world. What makes Green's feuds particularly fascinating is how they seem to energize rather than drain him. While most players try to avoid creating unnecessary drama and conflict, Green appears to thrive on it, using the negative energy directed toward him as fuel for his own performances. His trash-talking and psychological warfare tactics have been described as untouchable in today's less physical NBA environment, making him a throwback to earlier eras of basketball while still being perfectly suited for the modern game. Speaking of making enemies, this next guy doesn't just feud with opponents. He feuds with coaches, teammates, GMs, and sometimes his own joy. Jimmy Butler versus his teams. Jimmy Butler, a six-time NBA All-Star known for his gritty, high-intensity play style, has built a reputation as a transformative player who elevates teams, but also as someone whose demanding personality often leads to conflicts. Critics argue that this pattern, evident in his exits from 3 prior teams, stems from a toxic approach, while supporters view it as a no-nonsense drive for excellence. Butler's first notable tensions emerged during his 6 seasons with the Chicago Bulls, where he evolved from a bench role player to an All-Star, but reportedly grew frustrated with the organization's handling of Derrick Rose's injuries and what he perceived as the young core's work ethic. Sources indicate he didn't like Rose, viewing him as part of a complacent culture that was preventing the team from reaching its full potential. Butler's stint with the Minnesota Timberwolves produced his most storied and dramatic feud, lasting just 1 full season before erupting into absolute chaos. Acquired to mentor young stars Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, Butler quickly clashed with their perceived lack of intensity. The tension reached its legendary peak in October 2018 during a practice session that became the stuff of NBA folklore. Butler dominated a scrimmage while playing with third-string players, yelling at general manager Scott Layden, "You effing need me." This incident, which was subsequently leaked to the media, became one of the most talked about internal team conflicts in recent NBA history. Butler's time with the Philadelphia 76 ERs, though brief, followed a similar pattern of initial success, masking underlying tensions. Reports suggested that Butler clashed with coach Brett Brown over offensive schemes and felt that stars Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid lacked the urgency necessary for championship-level success. Butler's longest tenure came with the Miami Heat, where he initially thrived under coach Eric Spoelstra and team president Pat Riley, leading the team to 2 NBA Finals appearances. However, by 2024 to 2025, relations had soured dramatically over contract extension discussions, with Butler seeking a 2-year, $113 million deal that was denied due to his availability issues, missing approximately 36% of games, and Riley's public criticism of his commitment level. The situation escalated when Butler was suspended indefinitely, later reduced to 7 games, for conduct detrimental to the team, which included skipping shoot-arounds, taking unauthorized private flights, and displaying combative behavior in team meetings. Reports emerged that he had allegedly faked illness while being spotted at upscale Miami restaurants, leading to a comprehensive investigation that included a 10-page report with video evidence. Butler requested a trade on January 2nd, 2025, citing a desire to get my joy back, and was subsequently traded to the Golden State Warriors in February 2025. Pat Riley expressed no regrets about the organization's handling of the situation, while Kevin Garnett publicly called Butler's behavior non-competitive. Butler's pattern of conflict extends beyond organizational disputes to include altercations with opponents, such as his 2024 incident with New Orleans Pelicans player Najee Marshall that resulted in a one-game suspension. Social media discussions often compare Butler to other controversial athletes, noting that he rarely leaves amicably from any situation. By mid-2025, with Butler now in Golden State, extension talks had already begun to stall, hinting at potential future conflicts and suggesting that his pattern of creating drama may continue regardless of his surroundings. But while Butler burns bridges, this next star builds them just to light them on fire. From MVPs to media, Joel Embiid has beef with nearly everybody. Joel Embiid versus everyone. One of Embiid's most notable ongoing rivalries is with Minnesota Timberwolves center Karl Anthony Towns, which reached its peak in October 2019 when the two big men got into an actual fistfight during a game, resulting in ejections for both players.
Who's on defense?
See it right there. What is going on?
And then Embiid came in a double team, and those two remain in the backcourt, and this is what ensued.
Following the altercation, Embiid mocked Towns on social media, posting about raising the cat, and has maintained his dominance in their head-to-head matchups with an impressive 5-1 record. Embiid's rivalry with Denver Nuggets center Nikola Jokic has been built around their competing MVP campaigns from 2021 to 2023, with Jokic winning back-to-back MVP awards in 2021 and 2022, while Embiid claimed the honor in 2023. The rivalry has been intensified by Embiid's apparent avoidance of games in Denver, leading to a $100,000 fine for the 76 ERs when he sat out games against the Nuggets in both 2023 and 2024. Embiid's conflicts extend beyond opposing players to include confrontations with his own teammates and organizational disputes. In a July 2025 ESPN interview, Embiid revealed frustrations with roster turnover, complaints about a locker room rat, and mentioned that his relationship with former teammate James Harden had deteriorated to the point where he doesn't speak to me anymore. Perhaps the most shocking incident involving Embiid occurred in November 2024, when he physically confronted Philadelphia Inquirer columnist Marcus Hayes after Hayes wrote a column referencing Embiid's deceased brother Arthur and his son Arthur Jr. and criticizing his attendance and effort. Embiid shoved Hayes and warned him, "The next time you bring up my dead brother and my son again, you are going to see what I'm going to do to you," resulting in a 3-game suspension from the NBA. Embiid has also created international controversy through his decision-making regarding Olympic competition. Born in Cameroon and granted French citizenship in 2022, Embiid chose to represent Team USA in the 2024 Olympics, winning gold but facing boos and accusations of betrayal from French fans. Now let's turn to a modern-day grudge match fueled by flops, stare-downs, and playoff heartbreak, because Luka and Booker, that's personal. Luka Doncic versus Devin Booker. The rivalry between Luka Doncic and Devin Booker was sparked by on-court trash talk and escalated dramatically during the 2022 playoffs when Booker's Phoenix Suns blew a commanding 2-0 lead to Doncic's Dallas Mavericks. This collapse was particularly devastating for Booker and the Suns organization, as they had appeared to be in complete control of the series before Doncic orchestrated one of the most impressive individual playoff runs in recent memory. The animosity between the two young stars became personal during their playoff encounters, with Booker calling Doncic a whiner, while Doncic responded by mocking Booker's tendency to flop and sell contact to referees. These weren't subtle competitive jabs or the typical trash talk that occurs between opponents. These were direct personal attacks on each other's character and approach to the game. The tension reached its peak in 2023 when the two players nearly came to blows after an intense stare-down during a regular season game, with teammates and officials having to separate them before the situation escalated into an actual physical confrontation. The image of Doncic and Booker glaring at each other with pure hatred became one of the defining moments of their rivalry and a symbol of the competitive fire that drives both players. What makes the Doncic-Booker feud particularly compelling is how it reflects the changing nature of NBA rivalries in the modern era. Unlike the feuds of previous generations, which often developed over years of playoff battles and personal slights, this conflict ignited quickly and has been sustained primarily through regular season encounters and social media interactions. Their games against each other have become must-watch events for NBA fans, with with both players elevating their performances and displaying the kind of mutual disdain that makes for compelling television. The competitive intensity between Doncic and Booker is evident in their body language, their celebrations after big plays, and their willingness to engage in verbal exchanges that occasionally require intervention from referees. Recent encounters between Doncic and Booker continue to feature the same level of intensity and animosity that characterized their initial conflicts, suggesting that this rivalry will likely continue to develop and evolve as both players progress through their careers. And finally, no list is complete without the king. But before the coronation, LeBron had to survive a veteran who just wouldn't bow down. Paul Pierce versus LeBron James. Paul Pierce's Boston Celtics repeatedly blocked LeBron James's early championship aspirations, defeating his Cleveland Cavaliers in crucial Eastern Conference battles in 2008 and 2010. These victories were particularly meaningful for Pierce, who had spent years laboring in relative obscurity before the Celtics assembled their Big Three with Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen. During these playoff series, Pierce engaged in relentless trash-talking directed at James, frequently to get in his head. The dynamic of their rivalry shifted dramatically in 2012, when LeBron, now playing for the Miami Heat, eliminated Pierce's Celtics en route to his first NBA championship. This victory was particularly satisfying for James, who had endured years of criticism and disappointment in his inability to overcome the veteran Celtics teams. One of the most memorable aspects of their rivalry was Pierce's admission that he had sometimes faked injuries during games as a psychological tactic designed to rile up LeBron and throw him off his game. This revelation provided insight into the lengths Pierce was willing to go to gain any possible advantage over his younger rival. Even after their playing careers began to wind down, Pierce continued to take subtle shots at LeBron's legacy and achievements, particularly regarding debates about James's status as the greatest player of all time. Pierce's willingness to downplay LeBron's accomplishments revealed that their competitive animosity extended beyond their active playing days and into their respective legacies. The Pierce-LeBron feud also represented broader themes about changing eras in NBA basketball, with Pierce embodying the traditional team-first approach of earlier generations, while LeBron represented the player empowerment movement that would come to define modern NBA culture. Their rivalry played out across multiple teams and contexts, as both players changed organizations throughout their careers, but the underlying competitive tension remained constant regardless of their respective uniforms. This consistency demonstrated that their conflict was truly personal rather than simply the result of team circumstances or organizational rivalries. That brings us to the end of this story. For more just like this, click on the cards on your screen.